All right. Happy holidays, all. Merry Christmas time. Um, I hope everything is going well for everybody. I was just on Facebook earlier today and I saw something that somebody posted. I think it stated that are women allowed to teach in church? I went through the comments. I made a comment, and I also wanted to make a video on it. It seems like there's a few things regarding the subject that alludes that yes, women have a different role in the church as an opposed to men. But as far as people basing it off of, it's just a couple scriptures. Um, Again, I hope you all are having a happy holidays. It can be a tough time for some people. Just wanted to say that. So I decided I wanted to make a video on it, and it's something that I've been thinking about and working on actually for a little bit here. So today I just went ahead and was able to finish this. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So one of the things people cite is 1 Corinthians 14:34 through 35. And this talks about women keeping silent in church and saying that they are not allowed to speak, but commanded to be submissive or obedient under the law. It also says to ask your husband if a question arises and to ask him at home. So before and after those passages, Paul is talking heavily about those speaking in tongues. He references it multiple times, before and after. He gets into the practice of finding an interpreter of tongues, and if none are around, then we are to remain silent. So, is he alluding to the practice of speaking in tongues and its relation to the women in church? I really don't know. I could easily say yes, but could also say no. But everything surrounding those verses is in regards to tongues. So let's go to 1 Timothy 2:11 through 12. Paul writes and says to let a woman learn in silence, and that he does not permit women to teach or have authority over a man. So man was created first, and woman from man. And that's based off of Genesis, and that the law kind of goes back from there. So in First Timothy, Paul says that Paul, does not permit. So the way I read it, it means that he himself isn't permitting it. He didn't really say that it was a commandment of the Lord's, but I mean, when you think about it, I don't see why it wouldn't be. Someone pointed out to me, and this would have been the comments section, about 1 Corinthians 14:37 through 38, which follows the instruction regarding women. And Paul does say that these are commandments from the Lord. But again, this entire passage, all of 1 Corinthians 14 is regarding speaking in tongues. That one passage regarding women is kind of woven into the middle end passage. So I also wanted to go ahead and go over the Greek and Hebrew text. And no, I don't speak Greek or Hebrew. I really wish I could. Um, I rely upon translations and, well, of course, English translations. And to go and look at, I like to look at the Greek and the Hebrew and which words mean this and what words mean that. And so these scriptures are really true to the English translations we do have. I also believe that all the passages are also found in the oldest texts that we have. So they're all there. These passages are all there. So I like to dive into the Bible with an idea of how things looked at that time. Meaning, I want to read the gospel and remember people were living at that time, and there was a lot going on. A lot more than I'm sure Scripture was able to tell us. I think John even said, well, that's regarding Jesus, but if I could write about it all, I guess it would fill the entire earth up. So when you look back at it, you got to remember the people were living there. And what we get in text is In reality, it's pretty small, but the Bible's pretty big. I hope that makes sense. So, of course, I'm not opposed to women spreading the gospel. I know there are many women out there who are given the gift of teaching and the gift of being able to uh, preach the gospel and send it there and get a great understanding of it, a different understanding than I will. I like to talk to uh, men and women about it. I follow people online like Tracy Costin, and I have a great respect for her. I don't always agree, but that's not really here nor there. That's not for here or there right now. Nor am I against women teaching in church. But to err on the side of caution, I suppose that in a church setting, we truly do need to follow Paul's writing. In 1 Corinthians 4:16, Paul urges us to imitate him. We all should come to the church and know how to conduct ourselves. We don't want disorder. We want to worship and praise God and his Son. And if this is the way it's supposed to be, then this is the way it is supposed to be. We should all show up knowing. And from what I've read regarding the subject, a lot of people agree that Paul said these things to keep the church orderly, uh, so that we do know how to conduct ourselves in these things, when we come to our church conference. So the question is Paul asserting that women should never speak or teach? I think not. A few instances include Aquila and Priscilla, who spoke to Apollos, and this is in Acts 18:24 through 28. And they were able to teach Apollos more about the teaching of Christ. I believe he um, had been a follower of John the Baptist. He was out there preaching too, and then Aquila and Priscilla took him aside and then taught him, more of the way. Um, and Paul said that Aquila and Priscilla even saved his life. That's in Romans 16:4. At the end of 1 Corinthians 16, 1 Corinthians 16:19, Paul says that Aquila and Priscilla are there to greet people in the church that's in their house. So we're seeing the role of men and women there. In Romans, he says that Priscilla and Aquila are his fellow workers in Jesus Christ. Paul also says in Romans 16:1 through 2, that Phoebe is a servant of the church of Cenchrea, or Centuria. I was going to look and see how to pronounce. I don't know how to pronounce that. And to assist her with anything that's needed. So that seems like people are coming into the church and now they want to assist her. So she's there taking care of churchly duties in Cenchrea, and that's Phoebe. So she's a servant. Um, we also see women prophets. Notably, we have Miriam and Deborah from the Old Testament, from Exodus and Judges. And I'll go ahead and go to Anna in Luke 2:36 through 38. She is called a prophetess and declares witness to our Redeemer, Jesus. In Acts, we also see Philip's four daughters. That's Acts 21:9. Four women who prophesied. That's just a quick mention. So now I'm going to go back to Paul. In 1 Corinthians 11:5, where it talks about women who prophesy and how it is a dishonor to do so without Hitler. So even with Paul's own writings, he's speaking about women who are out there spreading the word, spreading the gospel. They will be teaching me and prophesying. And he affirms that women have that role. Women are able to do that. The Bible has many times, like I said, going back to Deborah and Miriam. So, like I said, this shows us scriptures in cases of women teaching and prophesying. So, why the other texts? Let's hop back to 1 Timothy. So, Timothy is in Ephesus at the time of Paul writing his letter. So he instructs Timothy regarding how women should be in church. So let's go back again into Acts 19:21 through 41, which describes Ephesus as a place that worships the goddess Diana. It even speaks of a silversmith named Demetrius, who made silver shrines of Diana, for Diana. It even says in Acts that these people are seen chanting, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians." Hmm. Now, when the church was created for the Ephesians, we are taking like old ways and replacing them with new ways. We're replacing goddess worship with Jesus. So Paul may have instructed this conduct regarding women to be specifically placed to address the fact that they were people who praised and used to praise a goddess until Christ came to their life. So this may have been specifically asked by him to be done in Ephesians for that very fact. He might have instructed Timothy that I don't permit them to do that, because of the actions and what they were doing beforehand. So when you look into all these things that might have been going on, then you kind of might get an idea of why Paul directed. We don't really see Paul instructing this in all the letters, at least the ones that we have. So what about First Corinthians? Again, I just want to point out that the entire chapter is literally talking about tongues. I have it right here. Let me find it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, First Corinthians. We're going to 14, so I'm right here. I think I was back at 11:5. So yeah, so when I look at the entire script of First Corinthians 14, um, it goes from tongues and then back to tongues and then tongues, and then it talks about the order, of the church meetings, but all of these things are um, it's surrounded that one last part is just surrounded by tongue speak. Like I said, I can't really say for sure whether that was what he was trying to say was an outright ban or this is like a conduct regarding um, um, when there are people who are speaking there. And it goes into the how to go about that if there are people. Um, so my conclusion, I don't see a problem with women teaching. And this is so long as it is sound doctrine. Um, I don't see a problem with women speaking in church either. After all, when you see it, Paul said he doesn't permit a woman to talk at all in church. And this is again where I'm here right now, 1 Corinthians 14:34. But again, I see this as him addressing tongues. It's just right there, kind of like I said at the end. Um, let your woman keep silent in the churches, and then they're not allowed to speak. But even after that, it goes back to it. It goes back to him speaking about tongues, and if anyone thinks himself to be a prophet or a prophetess, then I'll um, let them acknowledge what I. But if anyone is ignorant, then they can be ignorant. And it just ends again with tongues, speaking about tongues. So I just see as 1 Corinthians 14 just being all about tongues. So, but these are the two things that I see people go towards when it comes to women in the church. But you know what? The big thing is, I want to hear what you have to think. I want to do it because that's what helps me to get where people are at, and it gives me great ideas. So, like, share, comment. May the peace of the Lord be with you always.